Hi everyone. Welcome to the third video of our look into the library's EBSCO databases. Last week we covered the basic search with search options, the advanced search and search history. This time we're going to start with the search results list and continue on from there. So let's get started. Let's start on the EBSCO homepage. And from here, let's type in a very simple search. I'm just going to type marketing and click the green search button. We're going to stop on this page for a moment so we can take a look at it. In this main middle section, between the left-hand and right-hand columns, we have the results of our search. These are articles, papers, and other documents that are related to the keyword marketing that I put into the search bar. And if you were to scroll down and read through the results, you'd see that they each have something to do with marketing. To the left, we have the Refine Results column, which lets you reduce the number of results you see on the page by changing the criteria you want. Both the search options we covered in the last video and these refining options are the primary ways you can limit some of the many results that might appear when you conduct a search. Some of these options were covered in search options in the previous video, but we'll go over this Refine Results column in full in just a little bit. Over here on the right, we have the Newswires and Web News sections, which are, in short, recently published items that are related to your search. We'll look at these later on in this video too. For now, let's stick with the main section in the middle. At the very top of this section, we have various options. Firstly, however, we are shown the number of search results that we're seeing on this page and the number of search results we have total. By default, we see 50 results at a time, which we'd be able to see if we were to scroll down more. So on this page, as it tells us, we have results 1 through 50. Let's take a moment here, just below, to notice that each is numbered. The first one here is, of course, numbered as 1. We also see that it says 1 through 50 of 359,902. So we have over 350,000 results, which on this page, we're only seeing 1 of 50. Let's move on. Next, over here to the right is the word relevance with a small downward arrow beside it. Clicking on that, we are given several options that determine the order in which we want to see the results displayed. Date newest, date oldest, source, author, and relevance. Date newest will show newer articles first, and date oldest will show the oldest articles first. Source will order the articles by the journal they're found in. Let's give this one a try. By clicking on source, it automatically sorts the results. You don't have to click on anything else. And here we see that our first result comes from the journal AAII, and that double A puts it up at the top of the list here. The source option only sorts A to Z, not Z to A, so we won't be seeing any journals that start with Z for many, many pages. Next, under this series of sorting options is author, which sorts the results by the primary author's last name. Again, like with the source option, it only sorts it A to Z, so we'll get last names like Adams, for example, before we see Sellers. Finally, we're back at the default, sorting by relevance. This is one of those database algorithms that attempts to provide you with the most relevant results first, much like Google, but how they sort by relevance is not something that is explained here. I'm going to click on relevance so we can go back to the default. Let's now move on to page options. We have several sections within page options: result format, image quick view, results per page, and page layout. You may recognize a couple of these, such as page layout, from the first video where we looked at the Preferences menu. The first is Result Format, which changes the look of each result. The default is detailed, and we can see that that is selected because the text is not blue like the other ones, and there is a small yellow outline around the image. Let's try Standard to see how the page changes. Now we have the same results, but there is far less information listed here than before when we had it set onto the default of detailed. Let's try another option. This time, brief. It's a bit hard to tell at first, but there is even less information here in brief than there had been for standard. Finally, if we click on the page options again, and we click on title only, we get just that. The title and these options below. We're going to go over these relatively soon. For now, though, I'm going to switch this back to detailed so we can see the default setting. Next in page options is the image quick view setting. By default, it's enabled, and this just controls the little image that we see here. This is just telling us that we do have an image in this article, but if we were to turn off image quick view, we would not see it. The image would still be in the article, we just wouldn't know from looking at the results that it has an image. We also have results per page, which by default is set at 50. However, we can also choose 5, 10, 20, 30, or 40 results per page. Last is page layout, where you can choose to see only the main middle column, if you click on one column, the left and middle column, if you click on this 2 columns one, the right and middle column for this option, or 3 columns, which includes the right and left column and the middle column, if you keep it on 3 columns. Let's move on to the share options we see at the far right portion of this middle column. Clicking on it gives us 3 sections: Add to folder, Create an alert, and Use permalink. Adding the results 1 through 50 saves all of these results on this page to your folder. Add search to folder marketing saves the search itself. However, I'm not going to go over these options more because neither of them will be saved. You can add items to the folder to save them, but once you close out of EBSCO, they are discarded. The alerts, both the email alerts and the RSS feed, are not possible to use without signing into an account, which isn't something you can do without paying for a separate subscription. Your access to these EBSCO databases with your library card doesn't count as an account within EBSCO. However, at the bottom, we have the Use Permalink option. This lets you copy and paste the link in this box to save the page. Keep in mind that this link is not the same address as what you would see at the top of your browser window. So if you want to save the link to this page, be sure to find and save the permalink. Let's click this again to close it so we can move on. Below these options are the actual results. At the end of each result, we have a folder icon that you can click on to save the link to this article to your folder, which again is not a permanent way to save it. Next is the title in large blue text. You can click on this to open it up, but we're not going to do that quite yet. For the detailed display, we see a wide variety of information here after the title. It's a bit squished, so it's kind of hard to see at first, but I'll highlight the different parts. First, we have the authors. Next, we have the title of the journal. After that, we have the dates and page numbers for this particular article. Next is the word diagram, which just tells us that yes, we do have a diagram here, and that's the same as what this little icon shows here too. After the diagram notation, we have the abstract. This extends from the word abstract all the way down until you get to DOI. DOI is the Digital Object Identifier Number, which you can actually use to search for an article. Just after that, we have AN, or Ascension Number, which is also used to identify this particular article. Just below this, we have a list of relevant subjects. Because our search was marketing, marketing is the word that's in bold right now. And as we saw just a minute ago, this little icon is the diagram that comes with the article. Now, we have three options here: HTML full text, PDF full text, and Save PDF to Cloud. HTML full text opens up a page where the text of the article is shown on the screen, but not as a separate document. PDF full text allows you to view and save the text as a PDF. And Save to Cloud allows you to upload the document to your cloud account or OneDrive account. This will be the layout you see for all of the results listed here. If you scroll down, you'll see some relevant videos, but basically everything will be set up in the same way. They may vary in length, but they will still have the same basic components. It's also important to note that some of these three options may not exist if the only thing available is the abstract. This particular database is called Business Abstracts with Full Text, so sometimes you will have the full text options. But depending on the EBSCO database, it may not include the full text, and you'll only have the abstract and other information about the article rather than the article itself. Let's now take a look at the side menus. To the left is Refine Results. The first section, which is Current Search, just shows what we're already searching. As per the default settings which we discussed in the last videos, the search is set to find all search terms and apply equivalent subjects. Further down, we have more options, many of which were seen in the basic search options section last time. Under Limit 2, we can choose to search for only full text, only scholarly journals, or only PDF full text. And we also have a sliding bar here where we can set an earliest date and a latest date if you have a specific date range in mind. If we click on Show More, we get a pop-up, which is basically everything we saw before in search options for the basic search on the homepage. Again, that was in a previous video. Let's close this. And let's move on. Source Types is next, and this lists the type of publications available. The numbers next to each show how many results you'll receive if you choose them to limit your search. Clicking Show More will give you another pop-up that contains the entire list of source types. In this case, there aren't any more to show, so the lists are actually the same. Let's go ahead and close this. Next is Subject, which we can expand by clicking the arrow right beside it. Similar to source types, this subject list lets you choose which subjects you'd like to narrow down your search results list. If we were to click on Show More, we'd see a much longer list. You can click on as many as you want. Below is Publication, which, in the same way, lets you narrow down your search by the title of the publication the article came from. So, if you only want to see items, for example, published by the Wall Street Journal, you can click the checkbox to make that happen. We also have Publisher, which, when you click on it, displays a list of publishers. For example, you can have the ABA Bank Marketing publication, which you would find in the publication list. But that is published by the American Bankers Association, and that's what you would find in Publisher. Finally, on this side, we have Language. English is the most common, of course, but when we click on Undetermined, and we can see that it automatically updates, we see that we still have English results, so that limiter in particular isn't terribly useful in this situation. But notice that once we clicked on that undetermined option in Language, the Language section has disappeared from this list over here. To find it, we have to scroll back up to Current Search, and we can see in here that the undetermined selection is noted here. To cancel that and search without choosing a particular language, just click the X. And the search updates again. Every option you choose on this left-hand sidebar will work in the same way as we just saw with Language. Let's move on now to the right-hand panel. I'm not going to cover this in depth because we're going to see a lot that's similar when we look at the results in just a minute. I will mention, however, that Newswires takes you directly to recent articles within the EBSCO database here. Web News, on the other hand, takes you to outside websites with articles about whatever topic you searched, in this case, of course, marketing. Now that we've covered everything on this page, we're going to explore the results section in more depth. Let's click on the title of the first result to begin. Our marketing is our goodness. Near the top of this page, we have Result List, which would return you to our search results, and Refined Search, which would change our search, and one of 359,902 with a little arrow beside it. This is the option to look through the results without going back to the result list. So if I were to click on Next Result here, I would be on 2 of 359,902. Let's move on. We have a page that contains information about the article. We have the title here at the top, as well as authors, source, document type, subjects, NAICS codes, author-supplied keywords, the abstract, author affiliations, the ISSN number, the DOI, the Ascension number, and once again, our image. Let's ignore what's below here for now. I want to point out the links here at the top left. We have detailed record, and we can tell that we're on this currently because it's not blue and it's not underlined when we hover over it. So this is the detailed record. We also have HTML full text and PDF full text. If we were to go back to the results list, you would notice that it has both HTML full text and PDF full text by the title for this results. So in that result listing, you would have the option to directly go to the HTML full text or the PDF full text. However, These are the same links, and you can do that from here. Just below these three options is Find Similar Results, which you can click on to find results similar to this particular article. Let's now look at the right sidebar. This is the Tools section. We can add this article to our Google Drive, which will require you to sign into your Google account. You can also add it to the folder, but as I mentioned, that is not permanent. Printing it is also an option. When we click on Print, we see a few options pop up here at the top. If the full text is available, you can print the full text. However, you also have standard field format, citation format, and customized field format to help you determine what information you want to print with the document or what information you want to print on its own. You don't have to print the full text, but you do have to print one of these. For example, you can print the detailed citation and abstract, the brief citation and abstract, or just the brief citation. Under citation format, you can choose any one of these options listed, but of course, APA and MLA are one of the better known ones. Also, if you click on Customized Field Format, you get an entire array of checkboxes that you can choose from, and you can click as many as you want. Finally, you can click Print or Cancel, and I'm going to click Cancel. Next, under Tools, we have Email, which will email the information to you. We again see very similar options to what we saw before, except now we have email options such as subject and comments to determine what you see in the email you send. Also, you can send it as plain text format if you just want text without any formatting. On the right, we can again include the HTML full text if it's available, but you could also include the PDF version as a separate attachment, which isn't an option as we saw when we had clicked on Print. We'll see about PDFs and printing those later. Again, you have standard field format, citation format, and customized field format. Let's click Cancel. Next is Save, which actually isn't like Add to Folder. Again, we have the options that we saw before. And if we click on Save, it takes us to a new page where we can see the text on the screen as a web page. This is also very compact, and it can be helpful for printing. You now can save this web page, and one of the ways to do that is by right-clicking and clicking Save As to save it as a web page. Let's click back up here to go back. Below Save is Cite, which gives us a list of citations that we can copy and paste wherever we need. There's also an option highlighted here in yellow to export a citation to a number of citation organizing softwares. If we click on this link to export, notice that it takes us to the Export section. And here is the list of all the different ways you can export it depending on the software that you have. Below this export option is Create Note. But we're not going to go into this because you can't save notes. Permalink, which we've seen before, provides a link to this page that you can save for later. Listen, second to last on the list, is an option to read the text of the article aloud, but we'll be looking at that in just a moment. Translate, as you probably guessed, will translate the text. Again, we're going to see this in just a minute. Now that we have covered everything on the first half of this page, we're going to scroll down and take a look at the rest. While the top half of the page was filled with information about the article and ways to save the article, this is now the article itself. Again, we have the translate option up here and quite a few languages to choose from. Keep in mind that it might take a while to translate if you choose this option. The translation will also most likely be performed by a program rather than pulling up a saved translation by a person, so it might be a bit off. On the left here, we have a table of contents where you can click on each link to jump to that section without having to scroll. The rest of this page is the article itself, so let's take a look at the last part, the controls here at the beginning. We have listen, which functions as a play button. However, we also have a play button here just to the right of it. This will also become a pause button once you click on it and it starts playing. The square is the stop button, so if you want to start the recording over again, you can just click on that. Next, where it says American accent, you can click on it to choose either a British accent or an Australian accent instead. To the right, you can adjust the volume by clicking on this and dragging the little tab back and forth. This next option, the little gear option, is the settings menu, which we'll click on in just a moment. You can download the MP3 audio file of the narration by clicking the download symbol here. And finally, you can close this audio panel by clicking the little arrows. To open it again, you can just click on listen, but keep in mind it'll start playing the audio when you do that. I'm going to go ahead and click stop. Now, let's click on the settings button, but before we do that, sometimes when you click the stop button, it doesn't actually stop and it'll start reading it. So just click it again and it'll take. Now, we'll click on settings. This opens a pop-up box with a variety of options. These are the default settings, but you can change all of them. By default, the reader will highlight text as it speaks the words, which you just saw a moment ago when it started reading. You can turn this off by turning off text highlighting. Next, under highlighting options, you can change how much is highlighted. Again, by default, it's word and sentence, but you can choose sentence only, word only, or no highlighting at all, which is sort of redundant because you can turn off highlighting here too. You can also change the highlighting colors. Not only can the word itself be surrounded by one color, but the sentence can also be highlighted in another color, and the text itself can be a third color. Alternatively, you can choose underline or none for both the word and sentence highlighting color. Enhanced visibility will, according to the explanation box that appears when we click on the blue help icon, display the current sentence being read at the bottom of the page in a larger font size. It'll also highlight the text. We're going to try this in a minute, so let's click on. The next option is reading speed, and we can choose from slow, medium, or fast. Next is automatic scrolling, which will move the page down as it's being read if that option is enabled. By default, it is not. Also, pop-up button concerns what happens when you select text. If you were to highlight, for instance, a paragraph when the pop-up button is on, as it is now, you can listen to that section of the article being read. You won't have to wait for the narrator to reach that point, so you can just skip right to that and let it begin reading. We'll see this in a little bit as well. Finally, if you don't like the changes you made, you can restore everything to the default setting. There isn't a save button, so just click close if you want to keep your present choices. Now, we're going to test both the option to highlight certain sections as well as the enhanced text visibility option. That's going to show us the words as they're being read. So, let's select a random section that's not at the top. And the pop-up came up all the way over here. And let's click the play button. It might take a bit to start, but here we see the enhanced text visibility with the highlighting options we chose. Once it has finished a section, it will automatically close. But not only is it highlighting it down here, but it's highlighting it in the paragraph. And notice that it automatically started reading this paragraph rather than starting from the top. Let's go ahead and close this by clicking the X. We've finished our look at this page, so let's scroll all the way back up and move on. Again, looking to the left, we're going to click on HTML full text. And now we can see this is almost exactly the same thing that we saw before, except it doesn't have all of the detailed article information at the top. It just has the title and it has the database. If we want to go back to the previous screen, we can look again to the left and click on Detailed Record. Instead, we're going to move on and click on PDF Full Text. Let's look at what's familiar before we move on to what's different. To the right, we have all the save, printing, and exporting options that we saw on the previous page. They're just condensed a bit here. In the middle, we have the same article, but without all the detailed information. Just the abstract at the beginning, some keywords, and the article itself. Now, this is where it begins to change even more. Not only do we have all of the saving options that EBSCO provides, but we also have the PDF viewing and saving options. If we move our mouse over the screen and close to the top, we can see Rotate, which will flip the pages clockwise, Download, Print, and Bookmark. You can't really do anything with Bookmark here. The only bookmark saved is just the bookmark that's going to take you to the first page of this article. If you're scrolling and you want to go back up to the top, that can help. Down to the right-hand side, we see different zoom options. We have Fit to Width, and Fit to Page. Depending on what it's already set on, it might be Fit to Width, it might be Fit to Page. Right now it's Fit to Page, but if we click on it again, it will fit to the width, and again, it can fit to the page. Also, we have zoom in and zoom out. Now, let's look at the far left-hand side, the menu options all the way over here. Again, we can go to the detailed record by clicking here, and we can go to the HTML full text by clicking here. But in the middle, we have some more options and detailed information. Here we have the publication information, including the journal title and the date. This article was published by the Journal of Business Ethics on July 15, 2020. Just below, we have a table of contents listing the various sections of the article. You can click on them to skip to different sections. Up here, the 1 through 5 and the 6 through 10, you can click on these to see more options. The numbers listed by each section are the page numbers. An important thing to note about the page numbers too is that this document doesn't have over 600 pages. That's just the page numbers of the original publication. Next, we have illustrations, which shows us what illustrations are included in this document. Finally, we have Choose Another Issue. This means another issue of the publication which this article is part of. We see a list of years here, and when we click on one, we see a list of issues and their dates. Again, HTML full text at the bottom, but we're not going to do that. Back up at the top, we have Result List, Refine Search, and Download PDF. Let's click on Result List to go back to where we began for this video. And let's go up to the very top left and click on New Search to go back to the EBSCO homepage. We have now covered all of the features of EBSCO databases. As I mentioned at the beginning of this series, there are over 50 EBSCO databases that are designed just like this one. They are absolutely identical to each other except for their subject matter. Again, thanks for watching. Next time, we're going to start looking at some of the subjects covered by our EBSCO databases. See you next time. Bye.